All right, quick video on more speedometer stuff. So this is still the original that came with this 82 FLH, which has a sidecar. I've tested it with a GPS, speedometer, and it runs slow anyway. From speedometer standpoint, the mileage is accurate because that's gear driven, whereas the speedometer needle is driven by the magnets and comes back by the hairspring. So I'm sure they could be calibrated better, but yeah, it's a bit slow. And actually, as you get closer to 50, it gets even more and more extreme. So by the time you're doing 50 on this, it's well into the 60s. So something to be cognizant of. I've bought two other speedometers to try to fix the trip, which was the issue with this one. I was able to get this one running again nicely, but it did have a seized trip shaft, which had to break to get out. So it doesn't have a trip. So I've been looking to either get the trip function back in it, which would be difficult because it's sort of held in with sort of a plastic part, or find guts or substitute it with a different model. So in the past, I've tried a similar looking 120 mile per hour version that's the same speed ratio 2 to 1 on the cable. Has the same screws on the inside, fonts, all that sort of stuff. Very similar. These are the Nippon, the Japanese units. Anyway, but that one didn't work, partially because for starters, the thread where this is the guts of it, the thread that screws on, it's a wider cable attachment and a different thread style. So did that. Got the Stewart Warner one from a similar era, and that one's correct. But the one I got also had a different issue, and actually I have it here. It has a seized up gear here, or the teeth are eaten. So still looking to see if one of those pops up where I could replace it. So then I got another speedometer just the other day. This guy. Again, it's your Japanese cheapy cheaps. These are not good speedometers, essentially. They're not really rebuildable. I confirmed that the needle moves, although that's somewhat concerning that I'm able to do it that much with just a finger. But it works. The trip function on this doesn't work, though, unfortunately. And so the seller credited me a whole bunch of money back. Awesome guy, great to work with, and I said I'd pay a reasonable amount to crack this open and do an experiment and see if A, it can be repaired, or B, if there's any usable parts, and C, just to, sort of quench my curiosity. So in this one, the speedometer works. I'm guessing the mileage works, so that I didn't try it long enough. And the trip, when I turn the shaft, which you can do, I have the little knob for it, but you can turn it, it never engages. So either something's broken, or it's missing, or it's off track. But it does not, there's no way to reset it, which, again, if the only issue is I have a non-working trip, this one has that. So, and keeps, somewhat accurate speed if you're just, keeping things relative. So we're going to crack this guy open. There's two ways to do it. The nice way is to gently start prying this lip up, and then I think there's actually tools to then you can hook it in there and spread it out. The quick way, when you know you're not going to reuse it or you're not going to keep it, is you just Dremel a cut right around the edge, and it ruins it. But it's quick, and these are plentiful. Obviously, these rims are, you can actually buy them new for like $12. So we'll see how this goes. All right, we got this puppy cracked open. Sorry, the lighting's bad. And this one, the needle, you have to get pliers to pull it off. I tried a little carb cleaner to loosen up the glue, but man, it took some effort. This one appears to have the same problem mine had, which is the shaft is in there and it's going into the trip, but it feels disconnected. It feels like it's caught in the sense that you can't pull it out, but it feels snapped. So we'll disassemble it somewhat. And again, the reason why these are really tough, the way it's in there is this plastic piece that holds it in on that end, and then there's like your clips on this end. So I can remove that clip. That'll allow me to move this side and maybe get it out. But if I recall from the last one, there's no way really to separate it. Only, unless of course the shaft is just unscrewed somehow and needs to be rescrewed in, and we'll see. All right, well, we confirmed, same problem as mine. So what apparently happens to these is they break. And you can see where the shaft would have met up. Once I removed that little key, I was able to wiggle it loose, and this thing got really loose, wanted to bend and go all out of control. And so I don't know what causes this. We do have some metal gears in there, so I don't know if it's, something's got to give, and this is the point of least resistance. There's other parts. There's the little clicky key or the little click gear. So this goes in here like that. But yeah, the shaft, two issues. A, it's broken right at where it thins out. And B, there's not really, I'm going to play with it, but I don't believe they make it, I think those are glued in. And that little black piece. And so even if there was a way to get a new shaft in there and it needs this little cut in it, because that's what actually turns the gears or what catches and lets you reset the trip. Even if you had a fresh shaft from another one, you're not going to be able to feed it in through the side necessarily, because there's some point that's catching. So you'd have to be able to remove that. So I'll see if that's even possible. If I can rescue this, rescue this piece, then without breaking it, then I could possibly rebuild another one that has, a broken, find one with a working trip and then whatever. Just so you can see, I don't know if you paid attention, the mileage has changed on this. And now it more closely replicates this. You never want to change the orange one or the one immediately after it. That's the 10th of the mile and the first mile, because those you want to sync up so that when those hit 0, it rolls over correctly. But anyway, so you can get this within a few miles of accuracy, and all you do to change it, which, obviously you don't want to do this illegally, is you put a little pressure on these, I don't know if you can see these teeth, and you'll be able to, and I can't do it one-handed, but maybe this guy. Oh God, I went the wrong way, but it travels in one way. So now it's 33,000, but obviously you could keep doing that and get back to 0. And all of a sudden you've got a rare bike with only umpteen thousand miles. I actually went to the trouble of doing this one nicely and prying the edges, but you're always going to be able to tell if somebody cracked into one of these, because even if they get a new one to install it, it's a real bitch to get it on there. So this one's broken the same way that mine's broke. The mileage might work. I don't know how accurate it is. It's the wrong size. Who's it, what's it? It's in the back. So yeah, really essentially worthless, other than that it gave me some information, or if I'm able to pull it out, which I will give a go. All right, final update. So I started to get this to go, used a little acetone to try to loose up the glue, but it wants to chip. And beyond that, I remembered what the issue with these is. And that is that shaft is a smaller shaft that's put into this main shaft, which actually I have another one of these. It's screwed in. Yep, goes like this. Goes in. So it is screwed in. But it's done with the machine or something like that, because I just put pliers on it and tried to get it out. And if I recall, I had to put significant heat to separate the two pieces, because I was looking to see if maybe I could find a shaft to go in. So essentially there's, it's whatever machine or however they do this, it's meant to be permanent. It's jammed on there in a way that is not... You're not going to be able to separate these two pieces while holding this in, and not break this tiny little plastic piece, which is already starting to chip, that keeps it secured. Could you maybe make something afterwards with like a metal clip or whatever to hold it in? Maybe, hard to say. But, it just really, once the trip feels loose on this, the shaft is broken. And it's not going to be repairable through any sort of reasonable means. I'm sure there's a specialist who could probably figure it out. All right, another failure, but hope it's helpful.